Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD bodybuilder, here with our first interview of the series on Ask the Expert. So in this series, we're going to be talking to some science-based practitioners in the field of natural bodybuilding and gaining some insights along the way. So today I have Melanie Muthenthaler here with me.
Hey.
She is an Austrian bikini athlete and recently killed her season. She placed fourth at her first show in the ANBF and came second in a subsequent show in the INBA and had an amazing transformation. She is a science-based bodybuilding coach. She helps women lose fat and build muscle and has been having some really good results from what I understand. She studies marketing and also runs a blog and will soon be starting a podcast.
I am.
Yeah. Lots of stuff going on. So I met Mel in the spring and I was struck by how much of a critical thinker she is. And I think that's something that's really important to be looking for when you're choosing a coach or you're taking advice from people. Today, we're going to be talking about your recent contest prep.
Yeah, I'm flattered by the intro. I don't really know what to say right now. Like, you said everything.
All the things I missed? Okay. You just finished your prep, and I just wanted to ask a few questions since it obviously went really well. How long was your prep, and how did you decide on the length?
So basically my prep started in April and went all the way until October. So it was 26 weeks in total, or more like 25 weeks of dieting and then 2 peak weeks because I did 2 shows back to back. So they were like Saturday and the next Saturday. So it was, I guess you could say 27 weeks in total. And I do have a coach as well. I was coached throughout my whole prep and my off season before that. So we chose the length of the prep just basically to be safe, I would say. Like, we wanted to be more on the safe side, and that's why we chose a longer prep rather than a shorter one, because I had about 20 to 25 pounds to lose. So that was, so 26 weeks seemed pretty well.
Yeah. And then, so how did you decide on how much weight you needed to lose?
So we did that because I did kind of a prep for a photo shoot the year before, and I lost about 12, no, not 12. So I have to say it in kilos because I honestly have no idea how to convert it to pounds, obviously, because I'm from Europe. But I lost about 7 or 8 kilos back then, and I was at 57. And back then we were like, okay, I would have to lose about 2 or 3 more kilos to get to stage weight. So that was how we kind of knew where we had to go to. And just because my coach has been working with me throughout the whole of my off season, he just knew me very well, and he kind of decided it for me because honestly, I wouldn't have known what weight to aim for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely something that I've been like thinking about in terms of my prep. Like, what's my stage weight going to be? So, anyways, what was your starting and ending weight then?
So I started at 60, a bit above 65 kilos. So that is like 143, 145 pounds ish, I think. And I ended my prep at about 55. So that is 120. So, yeah.
Wow. So like 25 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Insane. That's amazing.
Yeah, we got down a bit lower than we expected, actually. Like, we planned to go for a 56, and then I was like, basically my coach said that I was done, so I could basically step on stage like a month early, but we still had time, so we were like, yeah, let's just lose another kilo. I mean, why not? And I look back, so.
Yeah, nice. Well, the extra time paid off then.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then what rate were you losing weight at?
So I don't know the exact percentage, to be honest, but it was like 26 weeks and 25 pounds. So I was losing about a pound a week. And you would expect it to be faster in the beginning and slower in the end. It was basically pretty steady all the way until the end. It was pretty steady, actually. Yeah.
Steady, hey?
So, yeah. But I don't know the percentage, to be honest, like my rate of loss. I'm not sure.
You would have no worries. Calculate it. But, and then what were your macros in terms of maybe starting with your off-season macros? What's that like?
So My off season, I think the highest was about 3,000 calories. And I don't know, like, basically my macros were all over the place. Like I was really high fat, high carb, like eating out all the time. Like you know the drill.
Hmm.
And that was the highest I've ever been. Then I think about a month before my prep, I started at around like 2,300 calories or something.
Hmm.
And that was my maintenance at that point, or like 2,400, 2,300. And that's also where we started my prep. Like we started at 2,200. So we kind of eased into it then. And then we just lowered calories throughout the prep. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, you had that maintenance phase beforehand, hey?
Yeah, did.
Did you find that helped?
Kinda. It like I don't know, like from a physiological or
Yeah.
physical perspective, I don't know if it helped for that, but like it certainly did for my eating behaviors and everything. Like I could really just eat super intuitively during that time, like just to hunger and until I was satisfied. So that really helped because I obviously couldn't really do that after.
Yeah.
So that really, yeah, it really helped. So I
Yeah.
kind of like that. I think we're gonna do the same thing before. Like it would have been hard for me to go from 3,000 calories down to like 2,100 or 2,000 or something.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I guess there's some theoretical application of having maintenance phase beforehand in terms of sort of like people talk about like fixing your metabolism and like setting
Mhm.
it up and stuff. But I think so much of it is just getting your habits in line. A maintenance phase is a really good place to start for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I would do the same thing, so
Hmm.
I would do it again.
At what points in your prep did you drop macros?
Um, it was that's really hard to say because honestly, that was just something I did not worry about. Like I left all the calculations, everything to my coach
Hmm.
because if I had done it myself, I would have dropped calories like I think a month in, and I would have ended my prep at like I don't know 800 calories or something.
Yeah.
But it actually stayed steady for pretty long. So I ended my prep at 16, 1,500 calories still. I was still pretty high on calories, on carbs and everything. So I don't really know when we dropped, to be honest. Like, exactly. It was just more reactive, like at points where I didn't lose weight anymore for like, or when I did not have a drop because I did have weight drops pretty consistently every week.
Hmm.
So if there was a week where I did not have a drop, I would 100% know that my coach would drop my calories. So we did kind of just do it reactive, I guess.
Hmm.
But I left all the thinking to my coach because, as I said, I would have done totally wrong things. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really like important thing for people to take their time in terms of the macro drops because it's easy to jump to conclusions and like drop things and before you know it you're at like zero carbs and you still have fat to lose, right?
yeah, yeah, it's just I was so happy to have my coach throughout the whole prep just because if yeah, as I said, if I had to think about all that stuff, I would first of all I would have made a lot of wrong decisions during that time and just like dropping calories or introducing cardio. Like I never did cardio until the end. I did not do a single cardio session. So it was just steps. So we just kept up the steps. And the funny thing is, for example, like I think 4 or 5 weeks out, we actually reduced my steps. So I was up
Oh,
at
really?
like 15,000 steps every day and we reduced it to 12,000, which is something I would have never done. Like why would I reduce my steps? Like I want to lose weight, right?
Wow, really?
But yeah, we did. I mean, we did still like reduce calories and everything. So I was at 1,500 at the end. But yeah, we decreased steps, and I was pretty happy about it because 1,200 was super easy for me to get in. Like I got in my 12,000 steps every single day, but 1,500 was hard. Like
That's
I
really
would,
interesting.
yeah.
Like
I
what
sorry,
was
what?
the reasoning behind that? Because you still had to drop macros, like
Mm,
you still had to drop calories.
it was just
Or
because the steps were a huge stressor for me.
okay.
Like
There we go.
Because I did have the 12,000. They were super easy for me to go for a walk in the evening to hit my 15,000. And it was just like, it was just too much. And I did have days when I did not hit my steps, and I would just run around in the apartment for like an hour because I had to hit my steps and I didn't want to go outside. When we reduced my steps, it was actually it's just easy for me to get them in. And it didn't really matter to me if I had 1,600 or 1,500 calories at the end, just because I was going to be hungry anyway. So like it's 100 calories more or less didn't really hurt me.
And what was your actual macro breakdown at the very end?
So at the very end, I was at, I think, 150 protein. My lowest fat was 30 grams. And the reason behind that was because carbs fuel performance, right? And I would, like, the main goal was to just keep my performance in the gym up. And I lost my period on the way anyway, so it kind of really didn't really matter anymore if I had like 30 or 40 grams of fat every day, like in that, for that matter. So we just tried to keep up the carbs as much as possible. So I still got in 150 grams of carbs every day. And it worked. Like I was still performing pretty well at the gym. I was fucked the rest of the day, but
I don't think I got this. What's your macro breakdown at the very beginning?
Wow, that's super hard to say. It's my protein was a bit higher. I think I started at 170.
Yeah.
Still like over 3 grams of kilograms of per body weight or something. So that's still insanely high. Like I'm super high protein. I actually texted my coach today asking him to go lower on protein because it's just too much. So yeah, so that's that. I started at like 55 or 60 grams of fat, so that's about 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, and the rest was just carbs. So it was 200, 250, something in there. I don't really know. So somewhere in there. Yeah. And we did weekly refeeds. Like I had a refeed every single week during the whole prep.
Yeah, awesome.
Basically.
So how did you run your refeeds?
So I had 2 refeeds day to day every single week, like back to back. So it was always on a Saturday and Sunday, where I kept my protein the same, my fat the same, and we increased carbs up to maintenance. So they were like, in the beginning, my refeeds were still pretty high. Like they were 2,400 calories. And at the end, like basically throughout my whole prep, I was just living refeed to refeed just because it was I don't know. There was so much flexibility and everything during like on those refeed days. So I was living refeed to refeed. And in the end, my refeeds were about like 18 or 1900 calories, which was not really like, it was not a lot. There was not much to play with. It was really just increasing my like the portion sizes and everything, just like eating 50 grams of oats instead of 30 grams or something like that, which is pretty sad, but it worked. So I was happy to have them. I was really, really happy to have them. And also because I had my 2 hardest workouts at the beginning of the week, like on Monday and Tuesday. So those refeeds basically fueled my workouts for Monday and Tuesday. And I had my easier workouts at the end of the week when it kind of didn't really matter anymore. So like it obviously mattered, but I didn't need as much energy for those that I needed for my squats, for example, which I had on Tuesday. So
yeah, that's actually really intelligent, I think. First of all, yeah, like the refeed research that I'm aware of, it sounds like there's like a little bit of evidence, but it's more so for a 48-hour refeed. You're supposed to, from what we know so far, it's probably best supported if you did like 2 days in a row, which is what you did. Yeah. And what I'm doing, like traditional bodybuilder wisdom is like refeeds are just 1 day, right? But
or even one meal.
But I think that still can help, but I'm just leaning towards what I've heard so far. And I've actually just switched my training program to do something similar to what you're doing, like to time my tough workouts with my refeed. So I think I'm gonna do refeeds Friday, Saturday, and my tough workouts are on Saturday, Sunday. So like that's when I'll like squat and RDL heavy and stuff. So I'll see how that goes. We'll let you know. But
yeah, let me know. I want to
know. And then how about diet breaks then?
I had 1 diet break throughout the whole prep, which was a whole week.
Okay.
That was a good one. I had like 2,500 calories or something to play with. Like that was a good week. But that was like in July, so basically halfway through.
Okay.
And it was great. Like it really did a lot for me for my physical appearance. Like I looked a lot better after my diet break than before, and my weight was like the same. I didn't do it the way you do it, just like eating out all the time. Basically, I
Yo,
tracked
chill.
everything and I basically ate the same things but more. So that really helped. My weight was stable, so I didn't gain any weight during that week. I just maintained, and it did a lot for me. Like we timed it with my deload as well. So I had a deload during that week and my diet break. So I was just after that week, I felt like I've never dieted. Like I felt so fresh and ready to train
Yeah.
again. So that was great. But that was basically the only one that I really needed. It was hard for me after the diet break to get back into it, but yeah, yeah, it was useful. I would do it again. It was great. So
Hmm. And then, yeah, in terms of plateaus, were there any times when you things stalled, and how did you break through them?
to be honest, not really. But that is because first of all, I ate the same things every single day. So, and like, I had the same like routine every single day. So there was not really much of a fluctuation going on.
Hmm.
Like there was no day where I was like, holy shit, my weight is up like a kilo or something. There was not a single day where that happened. So
Hmm.
that never stressed me out. And I didn't really hit a plateau per se. It was just as I said before, when my weight didn't drop for a week or just stayed stable for a week or something, we would react to it by obviously reducing calories or bumping up the steps the week after. But that didn't really happen often. If it did, I just honestly, I didn't even think about it too much because I just knew my coach was going to know what to do. And I didn't have to do anything of like in terms of thinking for that. So I didn't stress about it. I guess that's the biggest part because if I had started to stress about it, there would have been like even more cortisol going on and even more like water retention and the weight would go up even more and that would have stressed me out even more. So I think the whole thing about it is just not stressing about it too much and maybe a few days after your weight will drop anyway, and if it won't, then adjust calories. Like it's simple as that. So
Yeah. Hmm. Um, what was your training like in terms of, say, your split?
so it changed a bit. So I think the first half of the prep, I was training 4 times a week. Like I had an upper lower split, and I had like 2 different upper days and 2 different lower days, like a lighter one and a harder one, I would say. And after my diet break and all my deload, we changed it up a bit. Like we split up volume from 4 days a week to 5 days a week, just because my sessions were getting insanely long. Like I would be training for 2.5 hours every single day. So we split it up and we kind of kept volume the same from, yeah, I think we did keep it the same at that point, but we just split it up because it wasn't like doable anymore. It was just too hard.
Hmm.
And then I did an upper lower, or like an upper lower, then a rest day, upper lower, and then a full body day. So, well, my coach is calling it a weak points day, but it's basically a full body day. So,
Hmm.
you know what that means.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay.
That's
And
great.
then, so how about your strength? Did that come down, or your performance in general?
Not too much, actually. I was pretty proud of that. I managed to keep up most of my strength during the whole prep. I was pretty sad when I had to lower my weight on squats just because squats are my baby. So
Yeah.
I was so sad. But that happened, I think, like 4 weeks out or something, which is totally fine. Like lowering weight on squats 4 weeks out that's okay, I think. So, and everything else I kept everything, yeah, kind of the same. It's hard to say on bench press because I had to take it out, I think 8 weeks out or 10 weeks out because I didn't really get injured, but my shoulder just started doing weird stuff. So we were just like it hurt for I think a week or something, and I couldn't really do anything. And I know it came from bench press, so we were just like, okay, we're just gonna put it out and be safe, basically. So I think my strength would have decreased on that as well, just because keeping it up on bench press is insanely hard. But I don't really know. So I haven't bench pressed in 3 months by now. So
what did you substitute it with?
So basically, the first thing we did after I can't say I got injured because it just started hurting and then it got more, so it wasn't really an injury. But at first we did like a shoulder specific deload, so we were just like basically putting out taking away all of the shoulder movements for a week or two, and then slowly started introducing some other movements. And what I did was actually replacing the barbell bench press for a Smith machine bench press, because it just left out all the stabilization work. Is that how it's called?
Stabilizers,
yeah, exactly. So that was just that, because that was the whole problem. So that didn't hurt, and I just did that instead. So basically the same movement, but on a Smith machine, just a variation. So yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like hard to give up strength, and I'm like already noticing that my like bench is like declining a little bit. But yeah, I think it's definitely like a general. I think a lot of the old bodybuilders would always talk about moving towards like pump style work, you know, like fluffy stuff at the end of prep. And I think a lot of it is just to deal with fatigue, you know, like, or to deal with the stress of doing heavy compound movements, and that like they would move towards less damaging movements, I guess. But
yeah. I mean, I guess there's also injury risk, right? Like I knew I had to be so much more careful with my squats, my RDLs and everything like that, just because you're so fragile at this point. You're just like you break so easily when you're 4 weeks out. So you just have to be so careful with everything. And it's not the same. Like if you do a Smith machine squat instead of a squat, like injury risk is just, it's not the same. So I think that is a huge deal as well. Like a friend of mine, for example, she was prepping for the same show. She did figure, and they took out all the compound movements 3 or 4 weeks out, just to be sure, just to like keep the injury risk low. So
yeah,
that's what they did.
And then coming back to what we mentioned earlier, at what point did you lose your period?
So I lost my period in July, because the last time I had it was in June, just right, because I had my exchange semester in Canada, right? So I came back in June, then I had my period one more time, and then it just like disappeared. And it hasn't come back since. So it hasn't, no. But I kind of expected that, because honestly we kept it up pretty long. Usually what happens for me is that I would lose it pretty early when I start dieting, and we managed to keep up my cycle until when I was below. I still had my period when I was below 60 kilos, which is a huge accomplishment for me. Like that never happened before. So we did something well there. But first of all, I haven't hit 60 kilos yet. I'm still at 59 point something at this point, which is 4 kilos above stage weight. So I think I still have to gain some weight for that to happen. And it's just, I don't know, periods is always like the topic for me, right? So I always lose my period when I'm dieting, which is not good, and like not something that should be happening if you're not doing a bodybuilding prep, obviously. But yeah.
What have you been doing in the post-show period in terms of, you gained, you said 4 kilos?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I guess some of it is water, because I stepped on a scale today and it was 4.5 kilos, but I know what my weekend was like. So I think a lot of it is just water from last weekend. So I guess it would be 3.5 to 4 kilos, something like that. Yeah.
So you basically just brought your calories up right away after the show?
Yeah. So we didn't do a reverse, we did a recovery basically. So because after my last diet basically, or my last prep, my photo shoot prep, we kind of tried doing a reverse, but it did not happen. Like I went over my calories all the time. It was just the worst thing for me, and it was super hard. So what we did now was just bumping up calories straight to maintenance and doing like a recovery thing. So I did not go straight into a surplus right away. That would just have been too much. But we went up to 2,200, which is like maintenance. And now I'm up at 2,500 calories every day. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the post-diet period is a big stumbling block for a lot of people because, I mean, that's when they rebound and lose everything that they've done. So just for people who like aren't aware, the two sort of approaches to post-show dieting is like the recovery diet versus sort of the reverse diet. Reverse dieting is, from what I understand, the more like traditional bodybuilding approach where you sort of bring back calories really slowly, like adding maybe 50 grams of carbs a day for like weeks before bumping things up. And then the recovery diet is when you're a little more assertive and you jump right back to maintenance or a small surplus to try and like reverse those metabolic effects. So, but yeah, I think I agree with the way you did it in that I think you want to sort of get your body out of that danger zone first.
Basically, yeah.
Start healing all the shit you did to yourself.
I mean, you're starving yourself, right? Like, it's really just controlled starvation. So you want to get out of that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, exactly. What would you say is your favorite part of the prep?
My favorite part? Holy shit, that's so hard to say. Okay, no, it's not hard to say. I know exactly what my favorite part was. So it wasn't anything like, I mean, obviously I love the shape that I was in at the end, and just the whole dieting and training, everything it's awesome. I loved every part of it, and I enjoyed every second of it, even though it was hard, but I did. But the best thing about my prep this year was that because of all the prepping, the shows, the seminars, all like everything that I went to, I just met so many new people. Like I met so many new people because of this sport and just everything surrounding it, because it's more than just dieting and training, right? It's just like a whole, like this community coming together and just basically having the same goal. And even if you're competing in the same show, it's not like there's not this rivalry going on. At least that's what I think. Is really just everyone coming together and just, I don't know. I think bodybuilders are outsiders in the normal world, but if you're in this whole bodybuilding bubble and there's just people surrounding you that love to do the same thing, it's just awesome. Like living better. Right. And I got to meet so many new people during this time, and I don't know, that was the best part of it, because some of those people have become really close friends at this point, and that is also one of the reasons why I'm moving to Vienna soon, because some of these people are living there and I can't wait to live near them. So that's gonna be great.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I think a lot of bodybuilders feel that everyone sees us as these like crazy ass people, and it's so like amazing when you meet someone else who's the same, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool. Like I think especially for us girls, because I mean there's so many male competitors out there, right? But female bodybuilding is getting bigger as well, but it's still small compared to male bodybuilding. So meeting other competitors is just, I don't know. I've never had a friend before that loved lifting and like talking about dieting and all this kind of fun stuff, basically. And now I have so many of them, and I don't know, it's just cool. It's like a little family, or a big family at this point.
Yeah. That's great. And then anything you wish you had done differently during prep?
Let me think. I don't know. I think we did a lot of things right, just because we already knew what we did wrong last time. So, for example, last time it wasn't a bodybuilding prep, but you know what I mean? We didn't do any refeeds. And we knew that that was something I needed. So we incorporated that. And just, I don't know. I think I did many things right, even though it was my first season. The only thing I wish I would have done differently is more a mental thing, and that is not comparing myself to others too much, because I know I was working hard and I have no regrets. I did the most I could, but I kept comparing myself to people who were just genetically blessed. And I know that I'm not. I'm not genetically blessed when it comes to bodybuilding, just because I don't have like a small waist, and I never will have that, because
You
that's
have
just not
huge,
how I'm built. What?
you have huge lats though.
I do. But it's still, at least at this point, it's not enough to balance out the fact that I don't have a small waist. And compared to someone who's genetically gifted. And I kept comparing myself to those people, which is just, that doesn't make sense, because my waist will never change, right? So that is the only thing I wish I would have done differently, because it caused a lot of stress for me, obviously, and it didn't help, right? It doesn't help, so why the fuck would you do it?
Hmm.
That's the
That being
only.
that being said, I think, well, first of all, I like totally agree that fitness is such a tough thing to sort of stay in your own lane with, and especially with Instagram and social media, where everyone is hyping up these like genetically perfect people, and it's impossible like not to see them, and sometimes like compare yourself, or like want to compare yourself to them. And definitely something that I've been trying to like learn over time, that you just have to gauge your own progress in terms of what you've done compared to yourself, and like take pride in that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that. I'd say that Mel is a textbook example of how to bring together scientific concepts and the research we know right now into a bodybuilding prep. If you're looking for more inspiration or would be interested in online coaching, I'll link Mel's Instagram handle in the show notes below. We actually split up our conversation into a few parts, so in the next video of this series, we'll be talking about strategies Mel uses in her diet to help her lose weight. That's all for now, guys. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and comment below. Let me know what you thought about this interview style video and if you found it helpful. See you next time.